Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Healthy Holidays presentation. My name is Amanda. I'm one of our registered dietitians here at the World Trade Center Health and Wellness Program. So today will be our final installment of this year's Healthy Holiday
Oh,
webinar, virtual wellness seminars. Oh, can you hear me?
yes, you're all good. I just wanted to make sure. Am I still sharing my screen or you took over? I can't
I
tell.
think I took over.
Okay, I
Let me
think we're
see. If
good.
I go to advance it, yeah, if I advance
We're
it, it
good.
works.
I'm gonna mute myself. I'm Katie. Sorry, guys.
Hey, Katie. Um, so as you guys know, Katie and I put together a series of webinars this year and including last year. We might go on a short hiatus just in the upcoming months due to different demands on the department. However, just to note, if you like today's webinar, all of our past webinars are on the Stony Brook WTC website. So if you type into Google Stony Brook WTC Nutrition, the first hit that comes up is our website. And if you scroll down, all of our videos are going to be there, so you can treat them like a podcast or whatnot. But without further ado, today we're going to talk about managing healthy habits during the holiday season. So, of course, like during the holiday season, there's potential drivers or worries, right? Affordability during the holidays, there's extra financial stress. People get nervous about the holiday meals, keeping attuned to their diet, or different family stresses that can be brought up by these large gatherings. Of course, finding and securing special gifts, like everyone has gone through or seen the holiday videos of a parent just in search of the best toy possible that their kid would enjoy. However, there's always supply and demand. With that being said, the National Alliance on Mental Illness noted that 64% of individuals living with mental illness felt their conditions worsen. That would mean like anxiety, depression, just to name. And a 2014 study reported that weight gains among adults during this period from mid-November, from about after Thanksgiving to mid-January, after the whole holiday rush of New Year's, is about zero point 0.5 kilograms or just about over a pound. We do see a range of weight gains, or some people lose weight during the holiday season, however, but of about 1 to 5 pounds in our practice, as this is highly variable based on the individual. So we will go into more of these effects of chronic stress on the body, as you see in this image here, later in the presentation. So, of course, we always want to ground ourselves in the moment of what is the stage of the season, remembering. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just getting a notification from someone. Excellent. Just wanted to make sure no one's in the chat. If you do have questions, please send them to the chat or feel free to raise your hand and ask aloud. We will also answer questions towards the end. But back to setting the stage of the season, just remembering what we're all here for this season. It's about gratitude and appreciation of our fellow man. It's a time to gather with those we love and care about that maybe we just are not as fortunate to get to see as often and would love to see them more. Festive gatherings doesn't have to be about the food only per se. It's about thinking of all the other attributes of the holidays and keeping mindful of, say, okay, even though I love my Aunt Kim's cheesecake, I'm more excited to hear about her new job, or I want to talk to my cousin about, their move and how they're doing, or if they need help with anything, and just coming up with other alternatives of what we're looking forward to in the holiday season aside from food and gifts, of course. It's about joy, love, kindness, and compassion. So the next question is, how do we go back to socializing and celebrating a mindful way? So the barriers that some of us tend to run into is we get caught up in seeing it as the whole month of December is just doomed. It's the holiday season, and there's so much in this stretch of time. And you'll see the typical foodie holidays that come up are, of course, listed here on the left. But we want to say, of course, all right, let's say there's about 27 days of the year where we may be eating quote unquote bad, right? But those days aren't even necessarily full days of 3 meals eating quote unquote bad, right? And we want to break it down by meal. It only comes out to about 7.39% of the entire year is those 27 days. And if we break it down by meals, that's 27 out of 1,095 meals. It's only about 2.5% of our meals, right? So it's not our make or break. So why are we gaining weight around the holidays in per se? It's often a change in habits Some people's domains of work might be seeing an influx in their work schedules. So there's an increased demand on them stress wise, increased demand in terms of the gifts or the financial situation or preparing to host a holiday, or what do I have to bring to this person's house that I have to make. So there's little changes in our routine that way. And sometimes because space in that routine is taken up with new additions to have to handle during the holiday season, our exercise routine might falter just because of quote unquote like lack of time. And lack of time also pairs well with some people's inability to prepare meals during that time because, oh, now I have to run out and go get Christmas gifts instead of, cooking dinner, for example, that some people run into. And because of the stress, some people have altered sleep routines. So all of this in culmination with some other factors, like maybe family visiting, that they're food pushers, or just more snacks, candy bowls around, treats given as gifts around, can factor into that weight gain on top of, just more social splurges or events to go to. So this can sometimes make someone feel like, oh, it's just a salmon upstream. I'm during this time. So what are we going to do about it, right? Of course, our mindset matters, right? So if we're restrictive dieting can lean to binging or going overboard or quote unquote cheating. Like my patients who tend to say they don't eat bread are the people who tend to binge on that loaf of bread. It's about honoring your craving, eating mindfully. So if you're craving, say like ice cream, right? Ask oneself, all right, is this something that I have to have right now? Is this something that I quote unquote need? Or is it something that I think I'm going to get over? If it continues to reoccur, it's almost better off just to give ourselves like one small scoop, see if we can optimize it. I'm just using the ice cream as an example, maybe a little bit of nuts on top, for example, or peanut butter, just to add some other phytonutrients, a touch of moderate amount of protein, and a touch of healthy fat with some fiber might help. And it versus if I try to avoid it, and then it could potentially lead to a binge because the person feels, oh, this is the last time I'm ever going to have this food, so I might as well, give it a good sending off, if that makes sense. um, the meal itself is just another meal. It's more about, the company that we keep, however. So it's the other component is hunger and fullness cues, and we'll go through this of course more in depth later in the presentation. But to avoid the unbutton my pants fullness by eating slower, right? We look at the hunger fullness scale as a 1 is starving Marvin. I'm so hungry I can eat the whole fridge. And 10 is like Thanksgiving stuff, unbuttoned pants fullness. Of course, like by paying attention to our hunger fullness, eating at first onset of hunger, preventing us from getting to that 1 sensation, more so eating at first onset, which would be a 3, can help us to end more at satiation versus if I go into it ravenous, I'm going to eat faster. I'm going to be more likely to have temptations and then be more likely to end at a 10 stuffed feeling and having overportioned versus just eating according to my hunger and not depriving myself. Some people, we write meditate on last year's holidays. How did you feel? Like reflecting back on like treating it like the big game, reflecting back on it. What was my peak? What was my pit? What did I do well last year with? What did I need to maybe work on for this year? It's going at it from a mindset of curiosity and self-love and talking to ourselves like how we would talk to a friend versus, being mean to ourselves. It's like the devil and the angel on the shoulder. We want to, of course, like we were saying, reaffirm and remember the reason for the season, enjoy the company you're with, and take the focus off the food, maybe coming up with other events or things to do, like going for a walk at a local park with some friends as a way of connecting, grabbing a cup of coffee, for example, versus grabbing a drink. Take a mindful pause and list 2 other things that you're looking forward to aside from the food. Or some people like to keep like a gratitude stone or a rock in the pocket, because when they put their hand in their pocket and they touch it and they think of it, they're supposed to say something to themselves of what makes them happy, what are they grateful for about the event. And I know that might sound a little hokey to some. It's called cognitive restructuring. So when I played lacrosse in college, it would probably, I think we were allowed to play in 0-degree weather up in Oneonta, and I was a lacrosse goalie. So getting hit with 70 to 80 mile per hour lacrosse balls and 0-degree weather is not the most fun. So I would have to, make the most of it, because either way, I'm going to be there for 2 hours. So I can either see it from a glass half full mindset, or I could see it from a glass half empty and be miserable. So a gratitude stone, you're kind of like forcing yourself to highlight silver linings or things that we might look past. And eventually, even though it feels like almost we're forcing it, it becomes subconscious and more natural for oneself, and it enables oneself to quote unquote like enjoy the process more. And this applies especially to starting a new exercise routine or eating healthfully as well. If you're finding things that you like about it, it's going to be easier to go back to it, right? So something that we like to talk about, of course, in regard to the holiday season is like portioning and what dictates if someone, quote unquote, like cheats or goes off the rails and has difficulty, is thinking about your three like hunger fullness related cues. One is environmental, one is physiological, and the last is feelings based or psychological, right? So it's about looking at the home or the day and seeing what's in sight or in mind, or what's out of sight, out of mind. Growing up, my mom always had like the chocolate star cookies on the table, or like the candy bowl. She's old school Italian, so it's always like nonsense sugar all around the house for no reason. So having these things insight in mind is going to naturally trigger that quick, let me just grab it, eat it, and now it's gone, and I'm not even going to think about it ever again. uh, useless splurges, right? um, Environmentals, also thinking about the environment to which we're eating, right? Like if we're rushing around, have to go run and get Christmas gifts, and if we're like standing and eating really fast and it's a high stress environment, we're in our car, we might not be as prone to eat as healthfully or portion as well, versus if we're seated in a low stress environment, maybe listening to some music, the phone's away, TV's off, and giving ourselves 10-20 minutes just to eat something and digest. Of course, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. We all understand that in regard to if I don't have something planned or a meal to kind of fall into, I'm going to have to will myself through it. And that's where someone might be more prone to be apt to get, say, like fast food or something super quick and processed. And of course, keeping a water bottle on hand, doing that always is part of our environment. It makes it easier to drink water versus having to get up and go to the the water filter on the fridge or the faucet every time we need to drink. So maybe keeping a water bottle on hand when we're shopping or going throughout our days in the holiday season. Physiological we'll go through is if we're not eating every 3 to 5 hours, we're not hydrated, we're not getting fiber, we're not getting adequate balance of macronutrients like protein, fiber, and fat. For those of you who come to nutrition counseling, we talk a lot about those macronutrients and balancing them out, and even did a presentation on it as well. So if we're not hydrated, right, my hypothalamus doesn't care if I get water from food or beverage. So I might be more prone to think I'm hungry when really I'm just thirsty. So that's what can impact physiological cravings. Meal timing, if my stomach's empty, right? I'm going more than 3 to 5 hours without eating, then oh yeah, by the time I get to like the 6th hour and I'm getting in the house, I'm going to be raiding that fridge. Versus if I just packed a small snack to kind of hold me over and tide me over, I'm going to be more apt when I walk in the house to want to cook, eat something a little healthier, and eat a little slower. The fiber, the protein, the healthy fat, like I was saying, the macronutrients, they're just more complex for the acid in your stomach to have to break down. So when you include those nutrients at your meals, they're going to hold you over longer. And if they're holding you over longer, it may impact portioning at the next meal, because then we'll be like maybe less ravenous, right? Or less apt to grab that useless candy that's not going to do anything for our bodies, for example. And of course, sleep is the final component. Is if we're prioritizing good sleep, at least 7 hours a night, or whatever is a reach for oneself. If someone sleeps 5 hours a night, can we try to do 5.5, 6 hours? Can I try to go to bed a little earlier? That can dramatically impact food cravings, as it goes back to the same situation with the water. My hypothalamus gives me cues, right? I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need to sleep. So if I'm sleep deprived, sometimes it's questionable, like the cues we get from our body. If I'm tired and I need food for energy, or am I just tired and I need a nap? So people who are sleep deprived are more likely to increase their calories by about 250 to 300 calories per day from fat and carbs like sugar. So it is something important to acknowledge and prioritize for lots of other reasons as well. And then feelings based, right? It's a time of stress. We acknowledge that, right? For some, it's a lot of stress. So acknowledging that maybe some people are prone for coping with food, like I call it getting a case of the F-its. F it, it's been a long day. I haven't eaten all day. I'm stressed. This, and this happened. I'm so upset. I'm just going to grab this. I deserve it for myself. Where, of course, that's where like the meal timing comes into play with this. But also it's acknowledging, hey, I'm kind of stressed right now. Maybe I need to do something that will evoke the same kind of feeling that the food does for me. So maybe it's going for a walk, calling a loved one. For me, it's just hanging out with my dogs, playing with my dogs, going in the backyard, throwing the ball, whatever that is for you, playing the guitar. For some, it's playing video games, whatever that is. It's about being grounded and mindful in the moment that, oh, I'm feeling this way. I might be acting this kind of way. Let me go off and take 5 minutes just to chill for a second and listen to some music. I don't need to grab this cookie. I'm not really hungry per se, maybe. Let's see. My slides don't want to advance right now. There we go. So, like I was saying, it's about staying grounded and acknowledging, am I hungry or am I craving, right? Biological hunger is going to come on slowly as that stomach gradually enters, and it occurs if you haven't eaten in about 3 to 5 hours for most people. If you're one of those individuals that you're like, I'm never hungry, maybe look at your meal timing and the frequency that we're eating, or if you do start to put in set routine meal times, your body's circadian rhythm does adjust, and you will start to get hunger cues at that time. The more consistent you are, for the most part. Um, a hunger cue generally does not pass with time. And it isn't typically for just a specific food. It can be for a variety of foods. Where craving can come on quickly, like I saw that Arby's commercial, and now I'm craving meat and cheese and bread. It occurs when stressed or tired for some. I know for some people, when they get angry or frustrated, they're bored. It's an emotion or a feeling. Everyone's a little different, but I feel like often I see in counseling, people are doing it when they're looking for something to occupy boredom. They're looking for something to de-stress and unwind. Those would be the top two. If craving can pass with time because it's not the body's physiological demand or need for food, right? It's more psychological. Usually for comfort foods that are salty, sweet, fatty options, like a mac and cheese is one of my comfort foods, for example. That's lots of starch and fat. Cravings occurs when uh, even after we've eaten, right? So like I'm hungry, I'm full, I just ate a meal, I'm looking for something. Why am I looking for something? Am I just not certain what I need to do next in time? And I'm sitting in this discomfort of what do I do with my hands? And I need to come up with another solution just to just kind of distract myself. Is there a task I need to get done? Do I need to just go brush my teeth before bed so that I don't have to go back and rebrush my teeth if I have something to eat, even though I don't really need it, for example? But it's acknowledging hunger versus craving. And then what we want to do is if we do feel it might be hunger, right? It's been a while since I ate, and because I haven't eaten in a while, I'm getting hungry. Maybe I didn't have any protein all day, and now I'm really, really hungry. The reason why I bring up protein is the most satiating nutrient. And I do want to touch on that macros concept because I think it's very important when it comes to the holiday season to consider the effect that food has on our bodies, right? So if I'm eating just a muffin in the morning and coffee, right? Like an English muffin, maybe a little bit of butter, right? That's not really going to tide me over much. If I'm looking at this scale, the left side of the scale with the apple, the bean, and the string beans, and then the right side is, of course, like your refined sugars, like your sodas, white bread, crackers, pasta, etc. as I go across from left to right, fiber deduces, right? So if I look on the right-hand side, this understanding blood sugar chart, blood sugar plotted against time, if I have something like a simple carb, a carb on that right-hand side of the spectrum, no fiber, no protein, no healthy fat, it's like putting how I'll give you an example in a second. It's going to go into my stomach, and the acids in my stomach is going to devour that so quickly, and then it's going to get pushed into my small intestine, where it's just going to get sucked up and absorbed. So that's where you see this high peak on the red line, and then I'm going to crash right back down because there's nothing really slowing that down. The acid's just tearing through it, so I don't have as much time to burn it off. However, if now I'm choosing a carb from the opposite side of the spectrum, I'm going from like apple juice to an apple or white bread to whole grain bread, that fiber makes a difference because that fiber is going to slow down the absorption of that food. That acid's not going to tear through it as fast. So because of that, the sugar from that carb is going to more slowly enter the bloodstream and more slowly empty the stomach. So you're going to be feeling fuller longer, but also that sugar is going to be spiking slower. So you have a greater propensity and you have more time to say burn that sugar off, right? It's better for our A1Cs, those who are blood sugar conscious. But it really doesn't do much, right? Like the apple's great. It's better than apple juice, but I still want to eat my left hand after I have that, right? I'm not fully full, right? It's not a meal. So if I combine that apple with, say, a little peanut butter, or more importantly, protein, like if I have a low-fat cheese stick, some dried edamame, a little bit of nitrate-free boar's head, it's one of the better cold cuts if we are going to have one, the no sodium turkey, and I have that, because that turkey, say, is harder for that acid to break down. It's going to move more slowly. And because it's moving slowly, like I said, you have even more time to burn it off. That's that green line. And you're going to be less likely to have a spike in your blood sugars. So it's going to be less likely to store as body fat, which is a win-win. So just in summary, a little metaphor that might stick out in one's mind, did for me when I saw it, is if I have 3 boxes in front of me, each has orange juice in it, and I put white bread in one, just a slice of white bread in one, whole grain bread in the middle one, and then maybe a piece of chicken, turkey in the right one. And I time it 5 minutes. And then I pull all 3 up. Let's say I have 3 arms, and I pull all 3 up. The one that's going to be the most broken down by the orange juice is going to be the white bread. The one that's going to be least broken down after the 5 minutes is going to be the meat. And that's a metaphor for the box being your stomach, the orange juice being your HCl, or your acid in your stomach, and of course the food being the food in your stomach. So when you think of that, you want to also plan your meals or consider, did I eat anything that really holds me over today? Or am I eating often and having a lot of cravings today and feeling overtly hungry, like physically hungry? Did I eat my protein? Did I get a protein shake in? Did I get turkey, chicken, fish, eggs, etc., edamame, tuna fish in my diet today? That's what you got to ask yourself. So that moves on to here. So if it's biological hunger, you're reflecting back on the day. Did I get fiber in my day? Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, and legumes all have fiber. Did I have healthy fat, olive oil, egg yolks, salmon, tuna, nuts and seeds, for example, and of course the proteins that we just went through. If I didn't eat much of that, I'm going to be super hungry and want to eat everything in my sight. If you, like we were saying, if you know what you want to eat in particular, and you know you're hungry, go for it. Sometimes we like to use what's called the hunger fullness scale, where a 1 is ravenous and a 10 is that I got to unbutton my pants, Thanksgiving stuffed feeling. So if I'm eating lunch at 12 and then I'm not eating again till 6, 7, I'm going to get to like a 1 by the time I get in the door at 6, 7. That's like starving Marvin. I'm ravenous. I'm eating really quickly and I'm getting a case of the effits, meaning it's been so long since I've eaten. My calories are in a deficit. I don't care about the quality of the meal. Let me just have what I want. That's what I just noticed with some people and even sometimes my mindset in the past. So then because of that, the person is more prone to eat very quickly. And because they're eating quickly, it takes that vagus nerve time to travel up to the brain and say, I'm full. It's like the LIE at rush hour. So by the time that brain gets the message that we're full, we get slammed with that, oh my gosh, I'm stuffed, Thanksgiving full feeling, and are more likely to end at a 10. However, the people who are eating more routinely throughout the day from when they break their fast is are more likely to eat at say a 3. That just that onset of hunger, right? Like you want to ask yourself, what does hunger feel like for me? Is it that slight like lightheadedness, dizzy, shakiness, hunger pangs, growling, stomach hollow feeling? All right, that would be classified as like a 3, right? So we want to start eating at like a 3. And then we want to stop eating when we're a 7, which is if I eat anymore, I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I feel just right. I'm good to go on with my day. So sometimes keeping this hunger fullness scale, it may sound silly, like on the fridge, and just like questioning yourself sometimes throughout the day. Where am I at? Am I at 3? Am I at 4? And it helps to instill what's called uh, what's it called? Intrinsic awareness. So it's that awareness of one's body and the cues of one's body. So if we realize, okay, no, it's not hunger. I had protein recently. I had a meal that was, fiber. I had a nice protein bowl with chicken and beans and brown rice and broccoli and bell peppers and all the veggies in the world and a little healthy fat kind of a dressing. I'm good. I'm not hungry. So it's first asking those questions. Did I eat enough today? When was the last time I drank water? Could it be those physiological issues? Am I dehydrated? How is my sleep? Am I tired and maybe just need a nap? What am I feeling? Am I bored? Am I anxious? Am I looking to unwind and relax? Am I angry? What's going on with me? Then from that, say we determine, okay, check, check, check. I'm hydrated, I've eaten, I slept well. It's a feeling, right? Or an emotion. Then we want to acknowledge what is that emotion. And like I was saying, reroute it. We call this our list of rerouters that starts with like call a friend, take a hot shower, stretch or meditate. Um, Reroute it to something that will help to cope for that emotion because it's essentially inappropriate coping mechanisms when we're coping with food. And it's learning how to cope with something else, right? And often we get conditioned this way as a child. You get a shot, you get a lollipop. You do something good, you go out for ice cream. So it's also throwing yourself kindness that like you were kind of trained that way. In American society, all of us, I was trained that way. Um, and to say and leave out like reminders for oneself too and acknowledge that it's like a muscle that it's not going to go away overnight if we're catching ourselves in the situation. It's more about acknowledgement and awareness and understanding, okay, the frequency of these events are now decreasing gradually. And I just need to keep this on front of mind. So, what I'll recommend to my patients, or I've done even in the past, is have that hunger, this guy, the biological hunger versus craving cheat sheet on the fridge with like a little stop sign, like, hey, wait, hold up. Am I hungry? Am I craving? And then you ask yourself those questions. And if you're like, okay, I'm craving, I have people that keep like a dry erase board on their fridge and they put like their rerouters on it. Cause of course, like we all know these answers, but in the moment, sometimes we just don't think of it, right? It's just not habit for us yet. So like keeping rerouters that call to you that you'd actually want to do. Like if you have a dog, then go play with the dog. If you like tea, like make a cup of tea. If you like doing your nails, put your nails. Whatever that is for you and it's a happy, healthy alternative, write it on somewhere that you're going to see it in that moment as like a gentle reminder to yourself, hey, let me go do this instead. Of course, we can always find a swap if none of that's working. Like maybe you go into the backyard and you're throwing the ball for the dog, and you're having a nice cup of tea, and you're like, oh, I still really am craving that darn ice cream. Okay, maybe can we find a swap? Can we do a Greek yogurt? Or can we do a homemade ice cream? Can we do like a smoothie? Or can we do a yasso bar? At least can we try to optimize it, right? And don't be too hard on oneself. Understand that this does take time. Option 3 is, of course, honor the hunger or the craving, I should say. but avoid eating distracted in front of like a screen. Sit down, put the portion out in front of oneself and put the bag or whatever else it is, container, away. Eat slowly, reflect on one's satisfaction, drink some water, move on, call it at that. This is like a little image here on the bottom right that we'll recommend that patients or members keep sometimes on the table as just like a fun little placemat reminder to oneself during the meal if we catch ourselves being a fast eater. Or honestly, like I'm a fast eater, so I have to just time myself with my fiance and just say, okay, I'm just going to try to keep up with him and call it at that. And just setting small goals. Next would be, oh gosh, this happens all the time. Common mistakes of saving up calories, right? So this is a really great breakdown that Katie put together to show us the comparing and contrasting of someone who is saving their calories versus someone here on this screen who is eating 3 meals throughout the day. So, for example, say someone is hosting a holiday, they're on limited sleep, and they're like, oh, I need to save up my calories so I can really splurge on Aunt Kim's cheesecake. So maybe they're like, I'll give myself just 3 egg whites, have a quote unquote like a skinny breakfast, and I have to kind of repent for the sins I'm about to have by having this meal. So maybe they do like this high intensity workout and feel like they have to burn off these calories to then go and binge later, which is all a little bulimic if you ask me. But then they tend to skip lunch, and it's technically disordered eating, but it gets normalized in American culture. But then they tend to skip lunch after having 3 egg whites, do this high intensity workout, skip lunch to save calories, maybe just a little yogurt or a piece of fruit, bird meal kind of thing. And then the guests arrive at 3, and maybe they're just nibbling a little bit on some crackers and cheese and salami, which could add up to about 600 calories because now they've gone a long time without eating anything really substantial. And then that person had put a lot of stress on their body, like the exercise, which definitely needs fueling without a doubt. And maybe they start to binge on like the antipasto and chips and French onion dip because now they're at like a 1 on that hunger fullness scale. So it gets a little harder to control that devil on the shoulder when we get that depleted. And then come the meal, they're just letting themselves go, and they have the roll, the filet mignon, the mashed potatoes, the green bean casserole, and then like 2 glasses of wine. They're just not really eating the most mindfully per se because they've quote unquote like earned it, right? This individual will take in probably about 2,600 calories eating in this style, right? Now, if I go to this individual here, which is the better option, this individual is having like a fuller breakfast, right? 3 eggs with a yolk. So now they're having protein, some fat, some carbs, right? Like half a cup of fruit with some yogurt. Yogurt has some protein to it too. They do a refreshing or de-stressing workout and maybe go for a walk, do a family football game, more so just to unwind and enjoy their holiday, get some sunshine, but not necessarily like repent for the caloric sins that they're going to have later in the day. Then maybe they have a little lunch to hold them a little bit because they acknowledge, okay, maybe I'm at a 3. I don't want to get to a 1 and be starving during the meal, like right before the meal. I want to be just hungry. So they have like a nice light lunch. It's nothing super heavy, like a salad with some chicken, but now they're getting fiber, maybe a little healthy fat with like an olive oil based dressing and a grilled chicken, adding up to about 260 calories. The guests arrive at 3, and maybe they're still having those like snacks and things, right, from before. It's the same
They're
thing,
having
but we're
half
looking.
the amount.
That's what I was just going to say. So that's why I just clicked back to the other one where the other one compare. Look, they're having 572 calories, 300 calories, 280 calories at that meal when the person saved versus now the person who's eating more optimally because they're not going into it at like a 1 starving Marvin. They're more at like a 3, I could eat, I'm getting hungry. They're more apt to portion and eat slower, right? So exactly like what Katie said, it's cut in half. And that's a dramatic change right there. And then because of that, now they had another small something to tide them over. So by the time they get to dinner, they're at probably a 3 again, maybe. And they skipped on the roll because they're like, I don't need the roll. It doesn't taste that great, and it's not something super special. I can't get any other time of year. They go for the filet mignon because you know what, it is their holiday, and they're allowed to splurge on their holiday. They have the mashed potatoes, the steamed green beans, and maybe one glass of Cabernet, right? So their portions have deduced because they're feeling more satiated, and they're more a little apt to be more present in their food choices. So we're comparing 1900 calories about rounded compared to the person who quote unquote saves their calories at like 2600. And I don't know about you, I've been both of these people in my life. I think we all have. It's uncomfortable when you're the 2600 person and you like go to lay down after a meal. You just don't feel good. And then you're just like, what was the point of this? I don't, this doesn't do anything for me healthfully. And it's not like I'm helping anybody else by doing this. So it's just at the end of the day, like, what's the point? You can still enjoy the meal and not eat, quote unquote bird food, as some people like to say, but just do so a little bit more mindfully, right? And feel better. It's win-win. Um, so that's algebraic, as the cartoon would like to say. Why does this matter? But nutrition is about budgeting in a sense. So to gain 1 pound, we have to consume 3,500 calories, right? To lose a pound, we have to burn 3,500 calories or eat a deficit, right? So typically we would recommend 500 calorie deficit per day to add to 3,500 when you multiply that by 7 days to equate to about a pound loss per week. So if you normally eat like 2,000 calories per day, eating 1,500 would be the weight loss goal. So with that being said, the day that we ate the balanced breakfast and the lunch and we still consumed, say 732 calories less than the day that was the saved up calories. So that person is going to be more apt to stay attuned to their weight loss goals, and it's going to be easier for them to maintain weight at least during the holidays or maybe even lose, right? Because it was just one meal essentially and a snack that went a little rogue, and then the person's just going to go back the next day to their routine, and it's more about like your day-to-day diet than just one day. Um, Something to also consider is I don't think it's really fair to weigh oneself the day after a holiday, because often when we consume more carbs than we normally would or more salt than we normally would, our body's going to require more water to metabolize those carbs, and it's also going to pull more water because of the salt. So it's not necessarily a true representation of if you gained weight. So the most important thing is really to eat mindfully, take actionable steps, reflect on what you did well, reflect on what maybe we didn't do so well. I like to use that idea for Thanksgiving, right? Like we all maybe went through our Thanksgiving. What did we do great? What do we maybe need to work on for the next couple holidays coming up, maybe this month, right? Next is some tips to avoid those holiday hiccups, right? So what can also help that individual who portioned a little better, say at antipasto or appetizers, is maybe they do a lap, right? Or if it's buffet style, they do a lap. Because I know myself, I've caught myself before on like a buffet line being like, oh, this chicken marsala looks great. And then I find out filet mignons at the end. Well, maybe I wouldn't have grabbed the chicken marsala if I knew the filet mignons at the end, but now both are on my plate and I feel funny not having it all, or, the conundrums we all get ourselves into. So do a lap, know what's there first, and then game plan what you actually want to take. Um, if you're hosting, serve vegetables first, meaning that it's a premise that actually certain Asian cultures will have where they have maybe like miso soup or like a light salad before a meal, because those are what you call water-based foods. So if I just drink a glass of water and I'm not dehydrated, say, it's not really going to do much to like quote unquote fill me up, right? It might just help to acknowledge those cues from the hypothalamus if I'm dehydrated. But if I have water in like a more say like bound form, like a food-based form, like in like fruits and vegetables, that fiber is also going to tide it over more. The individual who does that before a meal is actually more likely to portion and feel a little fuller from that little side salad or soup, veggie minestrone, etc., before a meal. Of course, like we want to eat off a plate and avoid grazing. Like maybe some of us have caught ourselves with that. Oh, grab this option and eat off a napkin, and then you don't know exactly what you took in totality, or what we had in full. And it's kind of like we take it in, we eat it, it vanishes, it's not a tangible thing, and we don't really know what we ate. So of course, always off of a plate or with a fork or a knife, uh, in holiday eating situations or social splurges. Um, Katie has a cute little ism: only eat off your feet. Like we were saying, like sit down and eat versus standing. We could savor it, enjoy it, and stay conscious or mindful of it more. We want to offer to bring something. Um, BYOHO, bring your own healthy option. Um, so like if you're tasked to bring something, see if you can bring like a garden salad or a fruit salad or something. Um,
And
just
that comes
to
back to what Amanda said with the environment. If you always complain that parties you go to don't have anything healthy, bring a healthy option. That's just an excuse, and you're leaning into that. Tough love,
exactly.
guys, but it's true.
You're right. It's an excuse, and it's like, all right, so like let's be a leader and not a follower, right? Like I'm going to be that vector for positive change. I'm going to bring something, and if someone wants to eat it with me, cool. If not, I did something healthy for myself. Um Baking versus frying, or using the air fryer too. Like, can we optimize different cooking methods? Grilling is always a great option too. Using less of these like heavy fats or heavier rich foods that can really pack on calories, like full fat sour cream, mayo, butter. Of course, like maybe using light olive oil or non-fat sour cream or guacamole, or optimizing certain fats if possible. And of course, like check out our healthified recipes if you are interested, because we always have different, what we call like comfort food swaps, like a set of pizza, cauliflower pizza with some chicken and vegetables, for example. Tips to avoid these holiday hiccups is, um, oh gosh, the leftover desserts. Like I love my mother to pieces, but like we don't need the Costco like sheet cake for 6 people to celebrate a birthday, right? So being mindful of the desserts on the table and the quantity in relation to the people. I come from a very Italian family that has a pie per person, it feels like, and I'm working on that with my family and acknowledging that. So if you're the host and you're recommending if someone needs to bring something, just keep conscious of maybe having them bring like an appetizer instead of another dessert. Um, Treat your body with more respect. What we mean by that, I know this sounds kind of harsh, and like Katie said, it's a little tough love, is a lot of us maybe grew up being told like you have to clean your plate, or don't throw out that food. There's starving people other places, right? Um, However, if that food isn't getting delivered to someone to repurpose, like, and if we can repurpose it, let's repurpose it, right? Bring it into the break room at work, for example. Donate it if you can. But if it's not gonna go anywhere else, we don't need to like guilt ourselves into eating it, because we have to respect our bodies more than we would respect, say, the trash can. To say, all right, let me just throw this out because it's not gonna do me or anybody else in my family good, and we've all enjoyed our holiday. Everyone got a slice of pie or dessert and was happy. Goodbye. We don't really need it. Using smaller plates, or actually blue plates, have been found as well to help with portioning. Maybe using 8.5-inch paper plates instead of the 10 and 1/16 inch. Sounds a little micromanagey, but it does pay off in the long run. Better beverage choices, right? Alcohol inhibits inhibitions, right? And also, we're more prone to say something silly that we might regret. That kind of motivates me a bit. Like, let me just not say something stupid, or let me not want to crave pizza after I'm having a glass of wine or something. It quickly adds up. And like we like to say too, in the past, we would tell you guys like, envision a slice of white bread in your glass, because that's what the wine's equivalent to, or the beer or the shot, etc. But it's really more so a slice of cake when you think about it, because alcohol is 7 calories per gram. So I'm going to go into how that makes a difference. Dietary fat, think like the classic hotel pat of butter, right? The little butter containers we would get at a hotel or school growing up. That's like about 80 calories, right? An apple this big is about the same amount of calories. So how come the volume of something this big versus something this big has the same amount of calories but a huge difference in size? Dietary fat is 9 calories per gram, and carbs and protein are 4 calories per gram. Alcohol leans a little bit on that heavier side, 7 calories per gram, closer to that of a fat. So much denser, right? Much richer. So you actually want to kind of envision in your glass for every glass of wine or every beer or every shot, please don't shoot the messenger. It's like having a slice of cake. So also alcohol increases our risk for cancer as well. It increases our propensity to store weight around the waistline. There's really no good that it does. I know we used to see old studies that contributes to, relaxation effects. Well, we can relax in other healthier ways that is not such a strong carcinogen is honestly my opinion. So less is always best, or decreasing if possible. If you catch yourself that you're the person that maybe you have one glass and we can't stop, it easily goes to 5 or 6, then we nip it in the bud and we just try to abstain. If we're the person that can have, 1 or 2, and maybe we've been having 3 or 4, and we just got to, keep an intention in mind, set a goal, and then track it and stick to it, then that might work. It just depends on the person, and being realistic with oneself. Also, I think little hacks, when if going to have a beverage, because we have to acknowledge people are going to have a beverage. Of course, red wine, right, does have anthocyanin and other phytonutrients in it. I also like to recommend like a Tito's, like in seltzer with like a splash of 100% fruit juice, because at least you're getting some electrolytes at least, or like bromelain from the pineapple, and like you're watering it down with the seltzer, or like say like using like a diet coke with like coke versus a full coke, because even though coke, it's like diet coke has chemicals, but so does coke, but coke has also like 30 grams of sugar. So it's, picking and choosing the lesser evil. And then another thing to consider is, for some of us, the light beers really work, and they can have, maybe instead of, that could be a way of cutting back and having lighter calories. For some, the light beers go down a lot faster, and maybe someone switching the light beers, they were having 1 to 2 beverages, but because they're doing the light beers and they drink them faster, they're having 3 to 6. Then that's not really the healthier swap, right? So it's acknowledging that maybe that person might need like an IPA or a stout. Like I love Guinness because it's 125 calories. You could sip that all night. Not all night, but you could sip that a longer period of time and savor it. And maybe that individual will take in less calories versus doing the lights. Again, it comes down to the individual though. Um, Lastly is of course staying hydrated, especially if you're sodium sensitive. That also helps with cravings, as we've talked about, and then taking it slow. Savor the meal, taste the food, express gratitude towards oneself, even in saying, "Oh, this meal looks great. It smells great. It looks great. I really appreciate how so and so took the time to cut all the ingredients to be similar to each other." Just being present, being mindful, and taking a beat to acknowledge what's before us. Um, of course, the food pushers. Um, I have a lot of experience managing food pushers. So it comes from a place of love, and I think for a lot of people with their food, it's a place of uh, feeling importance, giving purpose, sharing love. So of course we want to acknowledge where that person's feelings are, and why they might be pushing the food. But of course you can always say no, thank you. No, no, really, thank you. Thank you so much. Like kind of respectfully. Or I would like to eat more, but I couldn't possibly have another bite without feeling uncomfortably full. And this person loves you, so they shouldn't want you to feel super uncomfortable. Uh, your cheesecake, Aunt Kim, looks delicious, but I'm really just too full to eat anything else. I would love to take some home with me as leftovers. What you do with those leftovers is up to you. Or you can simply, wow, this looks amazing. I'd love to get the recipe from you. So you kind of dodge the whole leftovers thing. Or no, thank you again. I would not feel physically well, although it looks so delicious. So I call that like a compliment sandwich, where you do like compliment whatever the thing is that you're trying to the rough delivery to the person, right? Compliment, critique, compliment. So you're starting with a high and ending with a high. And then, of course, you could say, yes, it's true that I usually say yes to your offers for more food, but I'm really just working on making healthier choices. And I'm really too full, but thank you so much for offering, with the people that you feel comfortable sharing. If you feel comfortable, tell them you're trying to make healthy choices, and the more people that you share your goals with, the more likely you are to attain them. My thoughts on that research is because it's the people you share your goals with are going to be more apt to be able to support you. And then also, you sharing your goals is also you putting it out loud. You're making it real, you're making it tangible. And it's also something to kind of hold oneself to. Next is the exercise. So we touched very briefly on that. We don't have to repent for our sins, and we don't have to bulimically purge our calories with exercise, right? Like if that's the mindset to it, we have to check in. That's not healthy, right? However, if we're attacking exercise from the mindset of I want to move my body and feel good, I'm not doing this to earn my calories. It's just something that makes me happy. I've been stressed lately. I'd like to really go take the dog for a walk before the holiday. And also, if I'm taking the dog for a walk before the holiday, they'll be a little less crazy when company comes over, and I'll be very proud of their behavior. Um, so taking a walk after dinner, maybe with family, as when that blood sugar starts to rise after our meal, be a great way to kind of burn off some of that sugar, but more so about being grounded and present with our family members, and walking, talking, getting some fresh air would just feel good for our body. We don't have to go and do 100 sit-ups and 100 push-ups and run 3 miles just because we had, Thanksgiving dinner. Um, you want to just keep your routine activity is how I should say. Um, we want to keep up with your exercise routine throughout the month. Set maybe a step goal, track it, keep aware. If we're not aware, then we don't know what's going on. Get up and go early. Like if we have to make time in the morning, do it. Um, accommodate volume. That may be okay. Maybe going and working out 5 days a week might not be as realistic, but if I could do 4 or if I could do 3, that's great. Because I know some individuals will see it as, oh, I can't do my 5 days a week, so I guess it's not really worth it. I'm just going to take the month off. Where it's just something's always better than nothing. If traveling, plan ahead. Go outside for a walk or a run. I know on vacation I love to go and walk the beach, and also I love to see the area in the morning when things are quiet, less other tourists. If I'm in a touristy area, and you can kind of appreciate the day starting. You're more likely to see wildlife sometimes too, depending on where you are. Resistance bands are portable. Pack them in your suitcase. I love the TRX straps. You could use it on the back of a hotel door, get a little workout in, or look for resources on YouTube, Pinterest, Peloton, Beachbody that fit your needs, of course. And don't sweat it, but plan ahead and stay mindful. Next is self-care matters. So when getting through the holidays, it's also about acknowledging it's a stressful period, and we need to also prioritize ourselves and our emotions, maybe trying to set a sleep schedule or a routine, set timers to go to bed at night, create like a winter bucket list. We made one here at WTC, so we can also give that out. Um, we want to check up with our appointments, like still stay consistent. Like the patients who reschedule in December, um, Katie and I normally are like, okay, you're rescheduling December and then you want to come back in January. So usually we see that as the person's kind of putting their diet on pause. And it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change, right? And you want to see it not as like a light switch on off a diet, right? It's more about a dimmer. So if it's a really crazy month and time is just limited and there's some things that are just outside of our control, we still want to do something versus nothing, right? So we're just going to bring that dimmer down versus seeing it as I'm completely off a diet and flicking the light switch off. Of course, immune health is always something to consider during this time period. Wash your hands frequently, get your nutrients in, plan for sleep, because when we're sleep deprived, we're more likely to get sick, and ask your doctor to test your vitamin D status as well. We can also help you with appropriate dosing. If you get your vitamin D checked and evaluated, you can bring those labs into your nutrition appointment, and we will tell you the dose of vitamin D that you would need. Of course, being that this is a stressful time period, we just want to highlight some nutrients that can help with de-stressing. So omega-3s are great. A systematic review and meta-analysis found that higher consumption of fatty fish or high dietary plasma levels of omega-3s are associated with a lower risk of heart disease, for example. And often we see heart attacks during the month of December. So making sure you're getting enough omega-3s in can be helpful, specifically from fatty fish like salmon, tuna, mackerel, herring. However, you can get plant-based forms like walnuts, chia seeds, Brussels sprouts in the diet. But if you're not getting fatty fish in your diet at least twice a week, you're likely deficient and need to take an omega-3. Nordic Naturals or Kirkland are two awesome brands, and typically 1,000 milligrams a day, or at least 2 to 3 times a week is good. But you want to check with your doctor, especially your cardiologist, if it conflicts with any medications or if you have congestive heart failure, what they want you doing. B vitamins. So that's like your thiamine, your riboflavin, your folic acid, niacin, biotin, etc. So your B vitamins come from animal meats and fish, nuts, whole grains, eggs, milk, whole foods, right? Avocado. I attached like a link here. If you go to National Institute of Health fact sheets, you can see exact sources of all of these foods and how much vitamin B is actually, which vitamin B is in each of them. And essentially, your B vitamins help in your metabolism of most foods. So if you're not getting enough B vitamins and including magnesium, which I'm about to get to, it can affect your rate of metabolism. Your magnesium is your natural chill food. It helps release GABA in the brain, which gives you that natural relaxation effect. It supports serotonin creation, which is that feel good hormone that can help to balance our mood. Magnesium, it's highest in pumpkin seeds. It's the highest natural source. And then actually, believe it or not, chia seeds is now the new second over spinach. That's been recent. And of course, your spinach, yogurt, bananas, etc. Magnesium's become a very popular food for not just stress management, but also sleep and GI health, which, kind of all correlates with stress around the holiday season. So if you're having GI distress, magnesium citrate is great. If you're having difficulty sleeping, magnesium glycinate is great. And you don't really want to go taking more than 350 milligrams per day. That's the tolerable upper limit. And note, it does make people go to the bathroom. So if you're taking too much magnesium, you might be running to the bathroom too much. So that's why we put the tolerable upper limit in there. Next is zinc. Zinc is great for our immune system. Zinc is more effective than vitamin C in helping our immune system cope with colds and flu-like symptoms. Zinc you can find in meat, poultry, seafood, spinach, beans. It's also linked with irritability, depression, decreased immune system, like I was saying, and also it can affect our hormones too if we're not getting enough zinc in our diet. So we don't want to go taking a ton. Like during COVID, everyone was coming in taking 40 milligrams of zinc on their supplement recalls, and that's above the tolerable upper limit. If you want to take 15 milligrams or so when you're sick, okay, so be it. That's not a big deal. Or if you have a wound that you're trying to heal, that's great. Check if it's in your multivitamin, and you're trying to get 40 milligrams a day in. However, if you're sick, those needs do go up. But often people take too much. I see if they're supplementing, so just be wary of that. And then vitamin, and it can impact your copper absorption of other things. So it can impact your neurological system if you're taking too much. So it is important. Vitamin C can help to lower our cortisol levels. It helps with recovery in our joints with collagen after hard workouts, reduces blood pressure, which might be going up this month. And it plays a role in producing serotonin. So, of course, vitamin C you can find in your citrus fruits. Bell peppers have more vitamin C than an orange, and like your cruciferous vegetables, like your broccoli, cauliflower, kale. So, definitely emphasize vitamin C. And I know we covered a broad amount of different things. And I really respect and thank everybody for their time with today's presentation. This is being recorded. And I know I went kind of quick through these slides, and we went, a little roller coaster of all these different topics. So this will be up on our WTC website for you guys within about a week. Our goal is by Monday the latest, because we have to edit it and then give it to Big Stony Brook to put up on the website. But please feel free to review it, share it with loved ones. It's there for you guys, along with all those other videos on our Stony Brook WTC Nutrition website. And
I wanted
Remember,
to
yes,
open up to questions as well. I know you have to jump off, but I unmuted everyone if anybody did have any specific questions that this part won't be recorded. And thank you so much, Amanda. You did a wonderful
thank you
job.
guys. Thank you, thank you. And guys, if your question is personal too, and you might not feel comfortable sharing, you can email us, you can call us, you can schedule an appointment. We're always a phone call away, long story short. But without further ado, I just want to thank you all for your time. And remember your whys. You know, why am I in this? Why am I trying to make dietary changes? And just keeping that on the front of your mind during this holiday season and trying to avoid getting caught up in all the frills of everything else that goes on. And enjoy the rest of your day, okay, guys? Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a
Okay,
happy
thank you,
holiday.
Amanda.
I'd
Thank
like to say
you. Oh yeah.
thank you very much. This is Gloria Frazier. Thank you.
Hi,
Oh,
Gloria. Thank you.
Very, very well done. Thank you.
Thank
great
you.
job.
Yes, thank
Be
you
well,
very much.
guys.
Well done.
Thank
Have a
you.
great holiday. Merry Christmas.
You
Merry
too, guys. Merry
Happy-
Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Be well, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. All right, I'm going to hang back in case anybody has questions, and then I'll end the meeting in about a minute. So if you just
Thanks,
leave the
Katie.
meeting, it will end the session for you. Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone. I'm on to my next appointment and be well.